Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel is prepared to confront a coordinated attack by Iran and its proxies. The IRGC stresses that it was instructed by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to launch a severe attack against Israel. The United States is coordinating with Israel its defenses, while Washington also seeks to de-escalate tensions from spiraling out of control. Israel is prepared to confront a coordinated attack by Iran and its proxies. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant initially held a high-level meeting with Israeli Air Force General Staff, during the course of which he stressed, quote, "Our enemies are carefully considering their every move because of the capabilities you have demonstrated over the past year. Nevertheless, we must be prepared for anything, including a swift transition to offense." Subsequently, during a meeting with U.S. Central Command Commander General Michael Kurilla, who is in Israel for a series of preparatory meetings ahead of a confrontation with Iran and its proxies, Minister Gallant expressed his appreciation to the U.S. defense establishment led by Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin for standing with Israel at this time and taking action to further strengthen Israel's defense capabilities. According to a statement that followed their meeting, the Defense Ministry highlighted that their discussion focused on the coordination of defense cooperation between their respective establishments and militaries. They also discussed ways to expand the international coalition facing aggressive activities by Iran and its proxies against Israel and destabilizing the Middle East region. It is important to know that while Washington's defense establishment is working tirelessly to bolster Israel's capacity to confront Iran and its proxies, both defensively and offensively, the United States State Department continues to make every effort to de-escalate the situation in a bid to avert an all-out regional conflagration.
Earlier today, Secretary Blinken spoke to Qatari Prime Minister Al Thani and Egyptian Foreign Minister Abdullati about tensions in the Middle East, the latest in a series of diplomatic engagements he has held over the past few days with counterparts in the region and around the world, including calls yesterday with G7 foreign ministers and Iraqi Prime Minister Soudani. The Secretary has delivered a consistent message in all of these engagements. We are at a critical moment for the region, and it is important that all parties take steps over the coming days to refrain from escalation and calm tensions. Escalation is in no one's interest.
The State Department further acknowledged that it relayed messages to Iran in which it emphasized that war with Israel is not in the interest of the Islamic Republic.
We have been sending consistent messages through our diplomatic engagements, encouraging people to communicate to the government of Iran that escalation is not in their interest, and that we will defend Israel from attacks, and that escalation does not serve Iran's interests, just as it doesn't serve the interests of anyone in the region.
Following a visit by Russia's National Security Director, Sergei Shoigu, in Tehran, during the course of which Moscow pledged support for the Islamic Republic in its military adventurism, the State Department spokesman asserted that Russia was not contributing to de-escalating the region.
We don't have any expectations that Russia is going to play a productive role in de-escalating tensions. We haven't seen them play a productive role in this conflict since October 7th. They have, for the most part, been absent, and certainly we've seen them do nothing to urge any party to take de-escalatory steps.
During his meetings in Tehran yesterday, Sergei Shoigu, who formerly served as Moscow's defense minister, met with Iran's military chief of defense, recently elected president, among other senior Iranian officials, after which he highlighted that Russia and Iran are deepening their strategic cooperation in all fields.
Масштабы сотрудничества с Ираном сегодня носят, в общем, достаточно широкий характер и очень высокие темпы наращивания этого сотрудничества. Идут по всем сферам, в сфере экономики, в сфере транспортного сотрудничества. Конечно, те вопросы, которые рассматривались на встрече с вновь избранным президентом и с секретарем Совета Безопасности, они охватывали весь круг. Весь круг вопросов, начиная от Сирии, безусловно, тревожные события на границе Ливан-Израиль, Конечно, это касалось и последних событий, которые произошли в Тегеране, трагических событий. Эту тему нельзя было обойти.
Elsewhere in Tehran, IRGC Commander-in-Chief Major General Hossein Salami proclaimed that Israel miscalculated the situation when it allegedly struck Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in the Iranian capital, while the IRGC spokesman stressed separately that the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps was instructed to launch a severe attack against Israel without specifying what it may entail.
مدام اشتباه در محاسبه میکنند و این بار همین اشتباه را تکرار کردند. باز هم خواهند چشید.
سپاه هیچ شرارت دشمن صهیونیستی رو تا کنون همینطور که فرمانده کل سپاه فرمودن بدون پاسخ نگذاشته. قطعاً پاسخ شرارت جدید این عملیات تروریستی دشمن رو هم با اقتضاعات خودش در زمان با کیفیت خودش قطعاً خواهد داد، همچنان که مقام معظم رهبری و فرمانده کل سپاه هم فرمودن. پاسخ سختی خواهد بود.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged all regional actors to refrain from escalation.
We are engaged in intense diplomacy, pretty much round the clock, with a very simple message. All parties must refrain from escalation. All parties must take steps to ease tensions. Escalation is not in anyone's interests. It will only lead to more conflict, more violence, more insecurity.
The Biden administration's top diplomat went on to stress the urgency for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip.
It's also critical that we break this cycle by reaching a ceasefire in Gaza. That in turn will unlock possibilities for more enduring calm, not only in Gaza itself, but in other areas where the conflict could spread. So for the United States, for many other countries, both in the region and beyond, this is our focus. And what it comes down to really is all parties finding ways to come to an agreement, not look for reasons to delay or to say no. It is urgent that all parties make the right choices in the hours and days ahead.
It is important to know that earlier this week, during Israel's weekly cabinet meeting, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the ongoing negotiations with the Islamist Hamas, during the course of which he rebuffed absurd claims that his government was responsible for rejecting the outline for a ceasefire arrangement.
במקביל אנחנו עושים מאמץ עליון יומיומי להשבת כל חטופינו. אני מדגיש, להשבת כל חטופינו, בלי יוצא מן הכלל. יש לנו מחויבות ברזל להשיב את כולם, החיים והחללים כאחד. ולכן אני עומד על מקסום מספר החטופים החיים שישוחררו כבר בשלב הראשון של העסקה, ועל שבירת מנופי לחץ לטובת שחרור כל חטופינו בהמשך. אני מוכן ללכת כברת דרך ארוכה מאוד לשחרור כל חטופינו, תוך שמירה על ביטחון ישראל. המחויבות שלנו עומדת בניגוד מוחלט להדלפות ולתדרוכים השקריים בנושא שחרור חטופינו. התדרוכים האלה פוגעים במשא ומתן. לצערי הרב, הם גם זורים חול בעיני משפחות החטופים היקרות. הם מייצרים מצג שווא, כאילו חמאס הסכים לעסקה וממשלת ישראל היא זו שמתנגדת לו. ההפך הגמור הוא הנכון. האמת הפשוטה היא שעד לרגע זה החמאס לא הסכים לתנאים הבסיסיים ביותר של המתווה. בעוד שאנחנו לא הוספנו אף דרישה למתווה, חמאס הוא זה שדרש להכניס בו עשרות שינויים. הוא לא נסוג מדרישתו שישראל לא תוכל לשוב למלחמה. הוא דורש מאיתנו לסגת מציר פילדלפי וממעבר רפיח, צינורות החמצן שלו שיאפשרו לו להתחמש ולהתעצם מחדש. וחשוב לקבע את העיקרון שאנחנו לא יוצאים משם. החמאס גם לא מוכן לאפשר שום מנגנון שיבדוק וימנע מעבר של אמצעי לחימה ומחבלים לצפון הרצועה, והוא עושה את כל זה כי הוא רוצה להשתקם ולהתאושש ולחזור שוב ושוב על טבח ה-7 באוקטובר, כפי שהבטיח לעשות.
Netanyahu went on to stress that Hamas was responsible for rejecting the ceasefire and therefore International pressure must be directed at the designated terror organization.
העובדה היא שמי שמונע את שחרור חטופינו הוא החמאס, שממשיך להתנגד למתווה, ולא ממשלת ישראל שקיבלה אותו. כל מי שרוצה כמונו בשחרור חטופינו צריך להפנות את הלחץ על החמאס ולא על ממשלת ישראל. אנחנו מצידנו נמשיך להפעיל את הלחץ הצבאי על חמאס ובחיריו עד להשבת כל חטופינו והשגת כל יעדי המלחמה.
Regarding the heightened tensions versus Iran, Netanyahu once again reiterated that Israel will exact a heavy price for any act of aggression against it.
מדינת ישראל נמצאת במלחמה רב-זירתית נגד ציר הרשע של איראן. אנחנו מכים בעוצמה בכל אחד מזרועותיו. אנחנו ערוכים לכל תרחיש, הן בהגנה והן בהתקפה. ואני חוזר ואומר לאויבינו, נגיב ונגבה מחיר כבד על כל מעשה תוקפנות נגדנו, מכל זירה שהיא.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. It is important for us to highlight that TV7 Israel is a 100% donation-based non-profit ministry with all of our productions available free of charge. Therefore, we would deeply appreciate it if you'd consider making a donation, and you can do so by visiting our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I'd like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Mevorach Vebatuach, and God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.